All right, everybody, we'll come back into order now. We're coming into our final section of the day where we're going to hear from 4 departments in community resources and public facilities, starting with agriculture and cooperative extension. Good afternoon, Ms. Fisher.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Kathy Fisher, and I am here to discuss the Agriculture and Weights and Measures Department's proposed budget for the 2012-13 fiscal year. The department's total operating budget for fiscal year 2012-13 is approximately $3.7 million. The county general fund contribution is approximately $1.36 million, which is 37% of the department's total operating budget. The 12-13 budget is able to fund a total of 27 full-time equivalent positions. The department has held positions vacant, returned funds to the general fund balance at year's end, and reduced positions to offset increases in salary, retirement, and benefit costs. This has resulted in a reduction of 8.4 FTEs, or 24% decrease in positions since fiscal year 2006-07. Fiscal year 2011-12 accomplishments. During the 2012 fiscal year, the department increased pesticide use enforcement inspections. Examples of inspections include field fumigation inspections that increased by 75%. Structural fumigation inspections increased by 87%. And field worker safety inspections increased by 58%. This was accomplished by the development of departmental task forces that evaluated the pesticide program and identified a number of inefficiencies and deficiencies within the program. The task force developed and implemented a plan that included a change in staffing assignments and procedures. The plan also included a new professional development program that provided the necessary resources for staff to enhance their individual licensing and training needs. Japanese Daughter Eradication Project. In 2011, the department was notified about an infestation of the A-rated, highly invasive parasitic weed called Japanese Daughter in the city of Lompoc. The department coordinated the removal of the Japanese Daughter with the California Conservation Corps and private contractors. Cost recovery for the removal of this invasive weed was partially covered by contracts with the California Department of Food and Agriculture. A total of 17 tons of infested plant material was removed from the site and disposed of at a local landfill. Protocol requires that the site be monitored once a month for an entire year to determine whether the invasive weed has been completely eradicated. If Japanese Daughter is detected during a monthly inspection, the material will be removed and disposed of, plus the free-from time period will start over each time a monthly inspection detects Japanese Daughter. Multiple outreach, training, and education events. The department created a bilingual program to provide outreach, education, and training to the agricultural community to enhance communication between stakeholders and improve regulatory compliance by presenting training in a more appropriate and relevant manner. Department staff also participated in a variety of outreach events such as career days at local schools, Old Spanish Days, the Day of the Farm Worker, and the Soul Food Festival. The department also increased involvement in its Integrated Pest Management Program, also known as IPM, by assisting school districts with developing their own IPM programs, in addition to helping mediate issues regarding pesticide use on school grounds, and providing information to individual neighborhoods to help them address insect, pest, and disease problems in a responsible manner. Finally, the department published a well-received quarterly newsletter that describes the valuable services that the department provides and allows for other agencies and industry groups to circulate important information regarding their services to the agricultural community and the general public. Fund UC Cooperative Extension. The department was able to fund UC Cooperative Extension by cutting departmental costs and accumulating enough of a fund balance at the end of fiscal year 2010-11. The funds were then designated for fiscal year 11-12, which enabled UC Cooperative Extension's farm advisors to continue to conduct research and provide technical assistance for growers and provide oversight of key programs such as 4-H and the Master Gardener Program. Fiscal 2012-13 potential service level impacts. Operating expenditures were decreased by 6%, or almost $242,000 for the fiscal year. This was partially accomplished by eliminating an agricultural biologist position. The loss of this position will result in a decrease of pesticide monitoring inspections by as much as 40%, with the potential for an increase in human health and safety issues. The decrease in inspection requires the department to renegotiate its work plan with the California Department of Pesticide Regulation. The biologist position also has responsibilities in the pest prevention programs. The lost position will reduce the number of inspections of incoming and outgoing plant material by approximately 20%, with the potential of increasing the likelihood of a pest infestation. The department also negotiated with UC Cooperative Extension to reduce their fiscal year 12-13 contract by $27,000. This will result in a loss of services of both a rangeland advisor and a natural resource specialist. On a positive note, the department will be implementing a new price scanner program, which will ensure that businesses that use scanners are aware of their responsibilities, promote an equitable marketplace for businesses, and provide consumers with an enhanced level of protection from pricing errors. Fiscal year 2013-14, preparing for the future. The department is fully aware that its fiscal challenges will continue in 2013-14. Labor costs will continue to rise with the loss of the negotiated union concessions and the expected increase in retirement costs. Currently, the 2013-14 departmental budget has a projected budget gap of approximately $201,000, with the majority of this due to an increase of $151,000 for benefit and retirement costs. Revenue contracts with the state and federal government will continue to be reduced. Existing contracts have already been reduced over $100,000 since fiscal year 10-11. State agencies have indicated that funding for specific programs may be completely eliminated in fiscal year 13-14. The department will continue to focus its resources in the highest priority programs and will strive to maintain service levels wherever possible. The department will continue to identify and implement efficiencies for each program, as well as look for viable options to recover costs for regulatory programs. The department will be hiring extra help for activities that do not require biologist licensing, which will result in a reduction of program costs and will enable biologists to devote their time to activities that require licensing. The light brown apple moth infestation that has occurred in 2011-12 has resulted in a new regulatory contract with USDA. Due to the current economic crisis that is ongoing at the state level, all general fund support from the California Department of Food and Agriculture has been eliminated for light brown apple moth contracts. The only funding left is through USDA. This contract is set to expire at the end of the federal fiscal year in September 2012. It is unknown at this time whether there will be funding from USDA for the light brown apple moth regulatory program. Since this pest has the potential to create a large economic impact for agriculture in the county, the department will continue to devote available resources to protect the economic vitality of the agricultural industry. If the department cannot find additional sources of funding, then this may potentially impact other programs. The department also faces the continuing dilemma of funding UC Cooperative Extension's contract. Currently, this is accomplished by the use of one-time funds. The department would like to avoid the dependence on one-time funding solutions and work towards supporting the UC Cooperative Extension's continued presence in Santa Barbara County. Unfortunately, there are no permanent solutions at this time. Finally, the department will closely track the progress of the 2012 Farm Bill. There is an urgent need to invest in a national policy that will ensure farmers and ranchers can protect our natural resources while dramatically increasing their productivity to feed a global population and to remain economically viable. Santa Barbara County is constantly under threat from insect pests and diseases that attack our crops, forests, and animals and threaten our food supply and natural resources. The county's Department of Agriculture, along with our state agency and federal partners, fight threats like sudden oak death, glasswing sharpshooter, and the Asian citrus psyllid every day. Federal funding is critical to effectively continue this fight. In 2010, the federal government spent nearly $106 million on agriculture in California. $70 million directly went to the California Department of Food and Agriculture, and the majority of that went directly to fund local invasive pest and disease prevention programs. This concludes my presentation, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Questions from the board? Comments? Supervisor Wolf.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Fisher. As always, you do a great job. And I just read your newsletter that was put out recently, and it was very good. You know, I have a little bit of concern with the pesticide enforcement position. I think we had the same issue last year. So I'm looking at the service level impacts. It's a 0.8 and a 0.2. Obviously, that's a one FTE. In reality, is that one person who is currently doing the position right now? Mm-hmm. Okay. How many biologists do we have in your department?
Without that position, Madam Chair, Supervisor Wolf, we have a total of 20 biologists.
Oh, you have a total, 20.
That are licensed. The remaining FTEs are unlicensed positions.
Okay. I didn't realize that there were that many. But even with that many, it sounds from your presentation that the loss of one could impact agriculture and health. Even though health isn't mentioned in here, but I think in your presentation you mentioned that. So in your professional opinion, do you think by losing this one biologist it will significantly impact the program?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Wolf, you're referring to the pesticide enforcement program?
Yes.
Yes, we are anticipating that this will have a significant impact to the pesticide enforcement program. Some of the impacts that we're anticipating is a reduction of pesticide application inspections, simply because we will not have the resources. The other impacts that we are anticipating is that each program actually has a core function of duties that we are mandated to at least meet. And we have added layers this last year of service levels such as outreach and education and training, and we're going to have to scale back on those efforts so we can maintain those core functions of the program.
Okay. Thank you for that information. And I also want to thank you for answering the board inquiry form that I had about what we would see as far as income from the new scanner program. And it looks like it'll be about $400,000, and you're going to make a request in April to fund the position and then use a balance of funding for the 13-14 year. My question, I guess, to CEO Waller, is there any reason why a portion of that money couldn't go toward this position?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Wolf, if I may.
And I'm talking about the pest enforcement position.
Yeah, and please do go ahead, but I suspect that her answer will be that these funds are related to a fee that must be used for a specific purpose, which is the scanner program. But Ms. Fisher, please correct me if that's incorrect.
Thank you. Yes, that is correct. It actually is designated in the law of the device and scanner program that these fees are restricted and to be used only towards these programs. They cannot be used to offset cuts to agricultural programs.
So let me look at it a different way then. We have one person who's doing that now, so we must be using general fund to pay for that. So now we've got a program where fees are paying for it, so wouldn't that free up some general fund money that could go to this pest enforcement position?
Supervisor, Chairwoman, I think it would be helpful, give us a bit of time to look into the details of that, and we'll do a budget inquiry form and have that to you hopefully by end of day tomorrow.
That's perfect. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments for the Agricultural Commissioner? Supervisor Carbajal?
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Yes, I'll echo those sentiments. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll go ahead now and we will move on to our next departmental presentation, which is Community Services. I think your mic, we need your mic on there.
Sorry. Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Herman Parker, Director of Community Services, and will present the Community Services for your review and consideration. The total operating budget for fiscal year 2012-2013 is proposed at $17.9 million. We're also proposing a capital budget of $2.6 million, which primarily consists of federal grants and park capital fund balance from previous years carried forward. The general fund contribution totals 25%, or $6.2 million. This is due to the consolidation of the Parks, Housing and Community Development, Libraries, and Arts Commission into the new Community Services Department. This year, our budget contains FTE of 89.8, 63.8 of which are permanent benefited positions. This represents a 28% reduction in full-time benefited staff positions since fiscal year 2004-2005. For 2011-2012, our major accomplishments include the installation of 11 cabins and 4 yurts between Kachuma Lake and Halama Beach. This program has been immensely popular and has occupancy rates as high as 80%. The department also reopened the Guadalupe Dunes Road, which was washed out in the 2011 storms. This road serves as a primary coastal access point for the North County. The road has also received an American Public Works Association award. Staff developed a countywide cultural arts enrichment grant program funded through a partnership with the Santa Barbara Bowl Foundation, which will provide art programs countywide to underserved areas. The first grant awards are anticipated to be distributed in late June of this month. The department also provided funding for 5 affordable housing projects, which will result in 192 additional units, and awarded and distributed community development block grant funds for various community infrastructure projects, including the Public Health Clinic Elevator and American with Disability Act's improvements at civic centers in Solvang and Buellton. With regards to our service level impacts, the recommended budget is proposing to eliminate $1.2 million, or 100%, of the one-time funding for human service programs. The recommended budget is also proposing to reduce general fund contributions to shelter providers by 13%, or $45,000. The budget also proposes to eliminate general fund contributions of $200,000, or 100% of the local conference and visitor bureaus. The department will eliminate 2 park ranger positions, 4 maintenance worker positions. This will result in slower response times to customer needs and repairs and maintenance needs. In addition, the department continues the reduced services implemented last year, such as the reduction of hours of operation at the Guadalupe Dunes Park. And the recommended budget is also proposing to reduce building landscape maintenance contract services by 51%, or $75,000, at county buildings, including our administrative building and the Betaravia Center. This will result in trees, shrubs, turf being mowed or maintained less frequently. As we look forward and prepare for fiscal year 2013-2014, the recommended budget is anticipating a budget gap of $286,000. Availability of state and federal grants is currently uncertain at this time. The recommended budget will be challenged by increasing salaries and benefit costs, and the recommended budget will explore new opportunities to increase revenues through grants, partnerships, and other alternative funding sources. And this completes our staff presentation. Our staff will be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Questions, comments from the board? Supervisor Wolf.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Parker. You talked about, on the first page, the capital budget is $2.6 million. And you said as part of that you are using your capital funds, your park capital fund carryover from last year. And if I could find my piece of paper, but we are allocating in our deferred maintenance and capital additional money for parks. And in one of my questionnaires, I asked for a list of the repairs and deferred maintenance on parks. I guess the the essence of my question is why would you have a carryover of capital funds from last year and not get the work done that needed to be done?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Wolf, many of these funds are grants that were provided for projects that were funded at Kachuma, and we don't have all of the funding to complete the project. Case in point, the Kachuma sewer treatment system. We've got about $575,000 for that project that's being carried forward, but that total project cost is closer to about $2 million. So those are funds that we really don't have time, we really don't have the adequate resources to complete the project. As a result, we're carrying those funds forward. In addition, the Goleta Lift Station, another project that we're working on, we've got about $505,000 that's being carried forward. We've started the project this year, but those funds are being carried forward. So that's just an example.
CEO Wallen.
Chairwoman, Supervisor, thank you, Mr. Parker. This is consistent with the questions that we had this morning when your board saw the designations and how we were actually carrying funds over. That is, in fact, not only the issue that we have in parks, but also sometimes in general services and roads as well, that we have to sort of save our dollars to be able to totally fund a project. And then sometimes on the larger projects, such as Goleta Beach, it takes some time to be able to get design and construction underway. So thank you, Mr. Parker, for adding to the discussion from this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. I guess I understood that the Goleta Beach lift station was already close to completion, but I guess not. It's just in the engineering phase.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Wolf, the project is underway. I can't speak to exactly how far it is in the construction process right now.
Okay. There is a budget reduction in your proposal that is concerning to me. It's the grants administration position. And the reason it's of concern is because some of the issues that we have had with one of our providers in Lompoc, but even before that, just monitoring some of our grant funding. So I'd like to hear from you about your confidence level that there is someone else that will do that job, and that by eliminating this position, we're not eliminating the program.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Wolf, we will not eliminate the program, and we will be distributing those tasks to other staff in our department to make sure that we do carry through, and we continue to provide those services, those monitoring services that are necessary for that program.
Yeah, Chairwoman and Supervisor, and again, I just want to actually add a bit of strength to that. You may recall that earlier this year, your board had discussion, frankly, not only on contracts related to CSD, but contracts related to others in the county. And one of the goals that the CEO's office has, and we've actually already started working with the Auditor Controller, is to beef up a compliance committee to look through all of our contracts throughout the county, because we believe it's absolutely imperative to ensure that our taxpayers are getting what they're paying for on those contracts. So CSD will certainly be one of the areas, but we're going to expand that look at contracts throughout our county.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. I just know that oversight is very technical because of the federal grant, the granting. So from my perspective, I want to make sure that there is someone, we're just not farming it out, but we have someone who knows that area and is qualified to oversee those proposals. Another question has to do with the parks, the reduction or elimination of some of the park ranger positions. And we got a letter that, I think brought up some interesting points about the plumber position and not having anyone available to do that work, and the sewage position. When I read through these, sometimes in my haste I see that an unfunding of a position. Well, we're not losing a person, so maybe that's something I could live with. But when you read into these things and get more information, like in this instance, it actually brought up the issue of then So who is going to be doing this, and should we not be funding it? I mean, it sounds like it's one position. So if you can just, again, give me some clarity about this and help me understand why we wouldn't want to fill these two positions in particular.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Wolf, specifically the park ranger positions that you're speaking to are positions that are currently funded but vacant at this present time. It will require us to shift our resources and shift responsibilities to existing staff that we have. But these are all very tough decisions for us to make as we look at trying to balance our budget and meet our targets and our goals and still maintain those core values and those core services. It's a difficult decision to make, but we feel that we can work with our existing staff to accomplish that and still make things happen in a fair manner.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. And Madam Chair, I have one more question. This has to do with the libraries. And when I looked in the budget book, and I have also a question about this, but what I'm not clear about is why we have 4 FTE administrators that are associated with the library budget. I think we have our general fund is about $260 million, but associated with that are administrators. And I don't know why they are attached to the library budget.
Madam Chair and Supervisor Wolf, the 4 positions that are in the administrative and libraries are basically the positions that fund the director, the CFO for the department, a cost analyst, and an administrative assistant or secretarial services. So those basically are the positions that fund the administration for the department. And the library funding is combined with that, but the library funding is what it was last year. It's basically the same amount of library funding from last year.
So the consolidation of putting libraries into CSD, there is now a funding source for the administration. And that leads to another question, CEO Waller, is where are the efficiencies in the consolidation of the departments? Because libraries used to be off by themselves, and there was no associated administrative costs with them. So now they're in CSD, and I understand now that they have to pay a portion of your administrative costs. No?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Wolf, the libraries are not paying an administrative cost.
Well, who are the 4 FTEs?
The 4 FTEs are the director, myself, our CFO for the department, and a cost analyst for the department, and a secretary. But they're not affiliated with the funds that directly pay for the library services.
So they are general funds, they're just being allocated to the libraries. It's not coming out of any library money. Because as you said, the libraries are getting the same amount. Okay.
Chairwoman, Supervisor, the amount of funding to the libraries is a straight pass-through to them and continues to be. It's merely where they're budgeted. And in addition to that, I believe you had a question concerning what the actual cost savings were with the consolidation, and we're preparing a budget inquiry form on that, and I don't know the timing for sure, but I believe we intend to have that to you tomorrow.
Okay. And 4 FTEs that the library line item is paying for CSD seems like a lot to me. So that's my final. If it's not paying for 4, it says 4 FTEs. So maybe we just need to clarify that. Okay?
Thank you, Supervisor Wolf. Supervisor Carbajal, and then Supervisor Lavanino.
Thank you. I have a number of concerns, but they'll wait till our final deliberations regarding the Human Services Program that's deemed to be cut, shelter providers, and the elimination of the contributions for the local Conference and Visitors Bureau, the Film Commissioner, and what have you. So I'll just state that for the record, and we'll revisit it when we have our final deliberations. But I just wanted to thank you, Mr. Parker, for the good work you've been doing, notwithstanding the cuts you had to bring to us. But you've just done a remarkable job, and as it relates to my district, I know you've really have rolled up your sleeves and have really been working on two major projects in particular, the Cuyama Community Center and the Santa Claus Lane project. And I just can't tell you how elated I am and my constituents are because of your leadership and the strategic approach you've taken. I'm just in awe of your abilities, and I want to thank you for your good work.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Supervisor Carbajal. Supervisor Lavanino.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, when I first got the proposed cuts out of your department, I thought we were doing it just to see how many people we could fit in the room. So, because I knew Human Services Commission and the Chamber probably weren't going to be too popular, and as Supervisor Carbajal said, we will get to that on Friday of where we're going to be. But one I need some help on understanding is number 2, the shelter services general fund pass-through dollars. And I know there's a bunch of different ways that we fund the shelters. So can you explain what this actual $45,000 is for?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Lavanino, the $45,000 was part of funding provided to shelter providers throughout the county. We currently have retained $300,000 for those services, but those were shared between shelter providers throughout the county.
So it's just a cut from 345 down to 300?
That is correct.
Okay.
Supervisor Gray?
Chair, my questions are, I guess once you get a district, you just can't let go. My questions are going to be about Guadalupe and Jalama, so if you want to, it's in your district, so if you have questions about those, go ahead, go first, and then I'll wait.
Okay, well, I don't so much have, well, maybe I do have a question at the end, but I do have some comments, and I have to say that the service level reduction potential that was listed here, there are any number of things that I'm very unhappy to see. So, I really think that I'm going to be advocating strongly that we figure out a way to keep the Guadalupe Dunes Park open 7 days a week. If this were a South County park, no way would it be closed 2 days a week. And we just have to keep that open 7 days a week for all of the people in the North County. I'm very concerned, like Supervisor Lavanino, about the reduction to the contribution to shelters. This is a critical component of the most basic safety net that we have here in the county. Obviously, the Human Services Commission, I know we've all received, I don't know how many hundred emails now about this, and also the general fund contribution elimination to the Conference and Visitors Bureaus. I think it's important to remember that we made economic development and job creation our number one priority for this year, and I think this is one place where we can put our money where our mouth is. The last thing that I wanted to say on this is, and maybe this is a budget inquiry form, but I don't have a sense for unfunding the 2 maintenance plumbers, the 1 mechanic welder, and the 1 water sewage plant operator position, what that leaves us to cover those functions. Are there other staff members that are also in those same categories that are then going to be stretched farther? Or are we just totally eliminating these and then we're going to have to contract out for it? Because, we are marketing our parks are doing really well, we're adding all of these wonderful visitor-serving amenities, but I have to tell you, I can't think of worse publicity for our parks than having the sewage back up, and people are going to remember that, and they're going to tell their friends not to come. So I think it's really important that we take care of some of these really basic needs in our department, and that they not wait, that our patrol boats out on the lake, not be stuck at the dock because they can't be repaired. So those are my comments.
All right, I'm just going to go then to the Guadalupe situation. For years and years and years, we'd go out there and not see a park ranger ever. So I don't know why the gate can't just still be open. I don't understand that. So that's my question about Guadalupe. Why should it have to be closed when the park ranger doesn't really have a lot to do? And then so I'll go to that one, and then we'll go to Jalama.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Supervisor Gray, we do have requirements at Guadalupe Dunes for monitoring of the facility for endangered species during those sensitive times of the year. And so that does play a role in terms of the importance of having a staff there or having people on site that are aware of what those requirements are.
Thank you. And the Halama question is, I understand that you folks managed to find time to get with the Lompoc folks, and that you know how incredibly adamant they are against having the reservation system in the summertime at Halama. And you indicated that you have basically a capacity. It doesn't sound like there's a problem in the summertime to make sure that Halama is in fact filled up. And I'm just asking that, what are we doing to accommodate the local park users at Halama?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Gray, we did go up and meet with the community and have some discussions, and as we roll out our reservation systems, that is something we'll be taking a very close look at, is how we roll that system out and what the impacts to the community will be. And we will continue to assess that and make sure that the community is aware of what we're doing before we roll anything out.
And we understand, I think that you understand what a huge obstacle that is in Lompoc. They really object to having that happen. That's it for me.
Thank you, Supervisor Gray. Supervisor Wolf?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to touch on a couple of the other service level impacts, which was the Human Services Commission and the Advertising Resources piece. I spoke about this early today, about the dismantling of programs that are working. I think one of the reasons we have so many people here from the Human Services Commission, or folks who receive money from them, or recipients from those nonprofits, is because it works. And we have been seeing this since I've been on the board. Every year this comes up, let's just cut the $1 million out of the Human Service Commission. And from my perspective, and from talking to my commissioners and people out in the community, this is a program that works, and the benefits to the community are quite significant. So it's just troubling when we talk about board priorities, to kind of see this back on the agenda, back on our service level impact list again. The same goes for the advertising resources. And amazingly, it's now including the Chamber of Commerce. It was bad enough when we were decreasing the Film Commission, and now the proposal is to eliminate all of our contributions to the regional conferences. And as Supervisor Farr said, economic development is one of our primary sources. We've been talking about it today throughout the meeting. And even within the budget, I think it's maybe in your department, about the importance of getting out the word about how wonderful our parks are. Well, my statement is that why reinvent the wheel? We have folks in our community, the Chambers and Visitors Bureau, who are doing that right now. So I think both of those cuts are significant. I think they will have a huge impact on our community. And yes, we will be talking about it on Friday, but I want to get the message out that these are so concerning to me, and I know, Mr. Parker, that if you had your druthers, you wouldn't do any of these cuts, and we are in some difficult financial straits right now. But I think that we as a board can look at this and make strategic cuts and look at revenue opportunities that will backfill some of these. So. Anyway, thank you for your work, and to your staff, and is it Kelly? Carrie. I want to welcome you as well. You've been a terrific addition, and you've helped a lot in answering some of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Parker. Thank you to your staff. Appreciate your presentation. And if you could go ahead and consider that a request for a more explanation about the various plumber and mechanic positions. What else we have there? Thank you. Okay, we will move right along and have a presentation now by Planning and Development.
go. Good morning, good afternoon, Madam Chair and Supervisors. It is my honor today to present to you the proposed operating budget for the Planning and Development Department for fiscal year 2012-13. The proposed operating budget is $15.1 million. Since the submittal of our budget in February, we observed a trend of lower revenues for building permitting. This $15.1 million reflects a proposed reduction in building permit revenue of $133,000. The proposed general fund contribution to the operating budget is $3.7 million, which is approximately 25% of the department budget. This is a 44% reduction in general fund contribution from 5 years ago. The proposed budget includes 87 budgeted FTE positions, which includes eliminations of 8.5 FTE. Over the last 5 years, P&D has dropped from 149 to our proposed 87 positions. This elimination of 62 positions represents an overall 41% reduction of staff. Planning and Development has achieved a number of accomplishments worth noting, some of which are detailed on this slide. Accomplishments have been made in all divisions within the department and include a variety of important services to our communities. The following are a few highlights. We updated the zoning codes to increase their effectiveness in serving the public through streamlining, clarification, additional protections, and reduced permit processing time. These changes include development of a hearing waiver process that eliminates the financial burden of having to go to a hearing for minor modifications to zoning standards. We renewed the economic hardship time extension process, which prevents approved permits from expiring during this prolonged economic downturn. We have enhanced protection of our communities with additions to the code that address the number of vehicles and the amount of material that can be parked and stored on residential properties. We also updated the zoning code to protect public health and groundwater supplies by adding the requirement that any proposed hydraulic fracturing of an oil well requires a full environmental review in the context of an oil drilling and production plan permit. In addition, a number of cleanup changes have been made to the codes. In order to enhance and increase public access to information and opportunities to provide input on policy proposals, we updated the department website regularly to provide agendas and minutes for community plan updates, as well as the latest revisions to county ordinances. The draft Eastern Goleta Valley Community Plan was initiated for environmental review, and we completed the environmental review for the Summerland Community Plan update. In order to better protect mobile home park residents, the mobile home park closure ordinance was presented to and adopted by your board. We also presented the medical marijuana storefront dispensary ban to your board for adoption. Unfortunately, due to a proposed reduction in the department's general fund contribution, reduction in the use of one-time funds, and reduced permitting activity, there will be painful impacts to levels of service for our customers as well as potential staff layoffs. Long-range planning staff is proposed to be reduced by 2 FTE next year. This impact will result in the inability of long-range planning to take on any new long-range planning projects. Public counter staff will lose 1/2 an FTE, which may result in longer wait times at our public counters. The continued downturn of construction requires a reduction in planning permitting of 2 FTE. Should permit activity increase, these cuts may result in delays in permit review. Administrative, geographic information system, information technology, and fiscal management staff will be reduced by nearly 2 FTE. This will result in reduced capacity to expand and update internal systems, such as GIS, that support staff in their mission to serve the public. It will also result in less ability to update or expand our public-facing web pages. Dissolution of the redevelopment agency for Isla Vista reduced staff by 3 FTE. Finally, as part of a final budget adjustment due to a downward trend in the issuance of building and safety permits since our budget was submitted, and also not specifically depicted on this slide, it is necessary to reduce 2.4 FTE in grading inspection, public counter support, and electrical plan check. A $694,000 budget gap is projected in fiscal year 2013-14. The gap is comprised of a decrease in one-time funding that is the result of completing work on grant-funded projects and increased costs from expiration of labor concessions and expected increases in health care and retirement costs. We will continue to seek additional grant funding to support projects approved in our work program. We have been successful, and we will vigorously pursue all opportunities for outside revenues. In addition, our permit fees will be assessed to ensure they reflect the true cost of providing services, and any adjustments will be brought before your board for consideration. Last, it will be necessary to increase general fund contribution or implement further service level reductions as necessary to balance the 2013-14 budget. That concludes my presentation. I and my staff are available for questions.
Thank you, Dr. Russell. Questions or comments from the board? Supervisor Carbajal.
Thank you. Dr. Russell, I really appreciate the way you organize your budget. I earlier had a conversation with our CEO about, I think this is a right-sized budget for the circumstance that we're experiencing now. But again, having been here for a number of years, every once in a while when things pick up rather quickly, I just want us to be able to have a nimble, flexible contingency plan so that when we see more activity at the counters or we see that long-range planning, we have certain FTEs to deal with all the long-range planning projects that we have. Sometimes they don't fit all in a little box based on the FTEs, and you need to have a little bit of flexibility to be able to implement all the projects. So I guess, Madam CEO, if you could just touch on that in terms of being able to respond if we see something mid-year or the third quarter or the last quarter where we need to be able to address customer service issues.
Certainly, Chairwoman, Supervisor, you make an excellent point, particularly where this department's concerned, because it is a fee-based area, and as we have demand for services, we want to staff up as quickly as we can to meet that. The way we'll have flexibility here is that we will keep certain number of vacant, unfunded positions that if revenues do become available, we can immediately move forward on those. On the other side of the house, where we're talking about general planned revenues and the long-range planning, we will also keep a position or two so that if grant funding or anything else might come forward that would allow us to do some additional work, that we can fill those positions as well.
Great, thank you.
Other questions? Dr. Russell, I have one. On your first one that has to do with the reduction of 2 FTEs in long-range planning. When you brought the long-range planning work plan to the board, at that time you said you thought that you would have staffing to cover the ongoing projects. But this says that this reduction leaves no capacity for taking on new projects. And as I recall, at that time the board said if there was an expansion, that our first priority was to fund an economic development position. That's right, isn't it?
Madam Chair, yes, that's correct.
Okay. So if the board wanted to try to consider funding that, will we be looking at about half then of this GFC cost to restore of 201?
Madam Chair, yes.
Okay, so approximately $120,000. All right, thank you. Anything else from the board? All right, thank you very much. And our last departmental presentation for today is from Public Works. Good afternoon, Mr. McAlpin.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and board members. Thank you for the opportunity to present the Public Works budget for fiscal year 12-13 through 13-14. Our proposed budget for next fiscal year totals $109.7 million, and this total is comprised of a $85.6 million operating budget and a $24.1 million capital improvement budget. Public Works also receives a small portion of the general fund as a contribution for Project Clean Water and the County Surveyor's Office, as well as a portion for our maintenance of effort requirements. The general fund contribution this year is $2.7 million, which equates to approximately 2.2% of our overall budget. This total includes $1.6 million as a maintenance of effort for Measure A. And this maintenance of effort, or MOE, is indexed against the growth of sales tax from the previous year. SBCAG anticipates providing the index in July, so it has not been included in our budgeted numbers before you today. Also, in Public Works, on an annual basis, we manage our expenses to projected revenues, and we adjust the size of our organization accordingly. In fiscal year 07-08, 6 years ago, our Public Works staffing level was at 332.2 employees. Today, our proposed budget for fiscal year 12-13 includes 281.5 employees. This equates to an 18% reduction in staff in that time frame. All 5 divisions throughout Public Works have certainly had accomplishments over this last fiscal year and prior to. I'll spend a moment now highlighting some of the outstanding accomplishments being made by the team within Public Works. Resource Recovery and Waste Management recommended to your board the award of waste hauling franchise agreements in Zones 2, 4, and 5 after the county's first competitive bidding process. These agreements included much improved customer services and significant savings to the ratepayers. In addition to completing the 6.3-mile Santa Maria Levee rehabilitation project, the Flood Control District led a team effort to obtain federal funding required to complete the last 3,000 feet of this levee project in the Bradley Canyon. In Laguna County Sanitation, they have completed the installation of a 1-megawatt solar field that was completed in April. This field will pay 80% of our annual power costs and provide 60% of the district's power needs. And in transportation, they designed and constructed $9.8 million in capital improvements, as well as completed the road maintenance annual plan for fiscal year 11-12. The department has provided cost savings to the general fund of $1.6 million in fiscal year 11-12, and we will provide $10.6 million in savings over an 8-year period. And finally, the County Surveyor's Office has prepared high-quality maps of each district that are currently being used for public distribution of the approved redistricting process that your board went through this year. As I mentioned earlier, in Public Works, we manage our expenses to projected revenues on an annual basis. And certainly in all 5 divisions, we have experienced workload and revenue impacts due to the economic downturn. The impacts specific to the discussion today really fall into 3 areas. In development review, due to the lack of development review projects coming into the department, we're going to redeploy this resource, and it's going to cover a multitude of areas within our department. With the recent retirement of our disaster recovery manager and the reduction in FEMA and CalEMA reimbursements from disasters, this position has been eliminated in our proposed budget for fiscal year 12-13. And in the County Surveyor's Office, the staffing reductions over the last few years in this particular office, we're going to experience some delays in the time required to perform county surveyor mandated indexing functions. Other potential financial threats that we'll be monitoring in 12-13, the Office of the Inspector General is currently auditing the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. This includes 2 areas within our department for the 2005 storm. Those 2 areas are the Gibraltar Road storm repairs and flood control, debris basin cleanouts. This potential financial threat to the county ranges anywhere from $200,000 on the low end up to $1.7 million on the high end. Currently, the department is working on our second response to this audit. And as CEO Waller mentioned this morning, the transportation unfunded need has now grown to over $250 million. This certainly isn't just the Santa Barbara County issue. This is occurring up and down the state of California and across our nation. Without supplemental revenue in the future to address this deferred maintenance of critical infrastructure, our unfunded need will continue to grow. In fiscal year 13-14, it is anticipated that project staffing cost increases both in benefits and salaries will be $1.7 million. This is the gap that we will be closing as we prepare the budget next year. In order to close this particular increase in cost, the department will look to 3 primary operational areas. We'll look at service level reductions, revenue and rate increases, as well as staffing adjustments. So as an example, just for today, if we were to put 100% of this reduction into one category alone mentioned above in one division, the following cut in that area would be made. For instance, if we looked at level of service, this increase could essentially eliminate our pavement preservation program in 13-14 in its entirety. Under revenue and rate increases, this reduction would equate to turning off all of our streetlights that the county funds through our various CSAs for the next 2 years and 8 months. And if we looked at staffing adjustments, assuming the fully loaded cost of an employee is approximately $120,000 a year, we would eliminate 14 positions from our fiscal year 13-14 budget. Of course, as a department, we'll not look only into one area to close the gap in costs. We'll continue to use a balanced approach throughout the department to address these additional staffing costs, as we always have. One thing is for certain for your board, you can be assured that as a department, we'll continue to make budgetary decisions to allow us to provide outstanding customer service, and we'll continue to stay focused on major service areas within each division. Thank you for your attention this afternoon and the opportunity to present our Public Works budget for the next 2 fiscal years to your board. Both myself and my outstanding executive team are here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. And outstanding indeed. Supervisor Carbajal, you want to be first?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. McAlpin, I just wanted to thank you and recognize you for your extraordinary good work. You and your department are just responsive. Personally, I think you guys set the standard for the entire county. I'll go that far to say that. You know, I call you about a pothole, it's done that same day or the next day. I call you about an issue, my constituents get response immediately. So I just, you know, I would be remiss if I didn't recognize you for just doing an extraordinary job, you and your executive team.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the board? Supervisor Lavanino, then
Thank you,
Supervisor
Madam
Wolf.
Chair. I ditto that as well, but, you know, I think we've missed a little something today, and maybe somebody else touched on it, but, you know, we have been commending all of our executive teams that have come forward, but, and I'm sure you'd feel the same way, Scott. I think what we're asking to is that this be passed down to all the employees, the frontline people out there that actually fill in the pothole. So I just wanted to say that. And I agree with the supervisor. I mean, shoot, I think you guys are the most responsive, forward-thinking, maybe department that we have. So I really appreciate your can-do attitude. I've brought you some things that you probably should have laughed at, but you accomplished them anyway, and I appreciate it.
Supervisor Wolf.
Thank you. I want to third that. You and your team are exceptional, and we're very fortunate to have you in our county. But, you know, I think one of the things that was troubling in your presentation, Mr. McAlpin, is when you were looking at the 2013-14 outlook and what the possibilities were with that amount of a deficit, the 1.7 million. And so my question is, if we perceive that there's going to be such a big deficit in the outlying year, is there anything, I mean, none of us like cuts, but is there anything extra that could be done this year that softens the blow for next year?
Madam Chair and Supervisor Wolf, those 3 particular areas I brought up are what we look at on an annual basis. We look at the service level reductions, we look at revenues and rate increases, and we also look at staffing adjustments. And we've been fortunate over the years to use attrition and vacancies to get to where we are today as far as FTEs are concerned. We'll continue to do that. We'll certainly look at revenue projections for sales tax, tip fees, what have you. But it's an ongoing process for us. And
but when you mention, you know, all the streetlights being turned off and things like that, it's, you know, now that's out there. So I think then that there are other options.
Certainly. Right. And that really was just to show this in a context.
Right.
So we only have 4,600 streetlights, and if we were going to turn the lights off, we're talking...
That's a lot in my district, though. We have a lot.
There's a lot in your district, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, we want to keep those lights on. Thank you, Scott.
Anybody else? All right. Well, Mr. McAlpin, whenever you do your budget presentations, I'm reminded all over again of a very wide array of services that you provide to the county that are so critically important to maintain our infrastructure and to construct new things, whether it's sanitation, the landfill, roads, bridges, streetlights, flood control. Really, really so important. So thank you to you and all of your team and your staff, and I echo Supervisor Lavanino about making sure that everybody all the way down to the frontline staff gets that. I did want to ask you something that I mentioned before, and that has to do with the effects of the dissolution of the redevelopment agency in Isla Vista specifically. Public Works partnered with the redevelopment agency on a number of public works projects in Isla Vista, and then we had the rug pulled out from underneath us this last year. So if you could just very briefly tell us where we are, because I think that we're right in the middle of some critically important infrastructure that now we need to figure out how we're going to finish.
Yes, Chairwoman Farr. The El Embarcadero project was a key infrastructure project for the RDA, and it was going to be done in phases. The total project cost for El Embarcadero was $4.4 million. We have about $1.6 million left. Of that $1.6 million that's left, $400,000 is being funded with District 3, Measure A sidewalk funding, if you will, and that leaves a balance of $1.2 million unfunded. Thanks to CEO Waller last week, we were directed to put a budget revision request together that'll go to the board on June 26th for $190,000 to buy down that $1.2 million. And if it's approved by your board, then the unfunded piece of El Embarcadero will be about $1 million.
All right, and then that was also a public-private partnership with several large developments that are going in. So what does that mean?
We have 2 developments that are being built on the east side of El Embarcadero, and our project connects to the sidewalk projects that they are putting in as frontage improvements, if you will. And the RDA made some agreements, both in writing and verbally, to those 2 developers to complete the infrastructure improvements.
So we're just kind of left out there trying to figure out how we're going to finish this project.
Their projects and essentially our projects on hold at the moment.
Okay. Well, El Embarcadero, for those of you who are not familiar with Isla Vista, is the key gateway between Pardal and towards the beach, which is utilized by thousands of people every day. And it's actually quite dangerous, so it's something that I'll be bringing up later in the budget. Thank you very much for that information. Okay, if we have nothing else for Public Works, we'll go to public comment. I just want to say we have a large number of speakers. I am going to give the 4 electeds here 3 minutes. Everybody else I'm going to have to keep to 2.
Madam Chair, members of the board, we'll start with Holly Sierra to be followed by Judith Deo.
Madam Chair, Supervisors, I'm Holly Sierra, and I'm the mayor of the city of Buellton. I am here, after listening to all this, it's very depressing. I'm glad we only had a 3-hour budget meeting in Buellton. I'm here today to ask that you consider adding or partnering with county cities to create an economic development position to your budget. I'd like to see it done on a trial basis. I'm one of those people that believe that if you have somebody out there looking to bring business to our county, there are hundreds of businesses that would love to live in Santa Barbara County. Economic growth has been slow. City and county expenses keep growing. Buellton's hope is that an economic developer can provide a list of every city's assets and help match the cities with businesses. Each community is unique. Buellton is located right between Highway 101 and Highway 246. We've got great schools, moderate house prices. This economic advisor would seek out businesses to fit all of our communities, whether it's in retail, agriculture, industry, tourism, film industry, high tech, whatever. I believe if we give this a 2-year trial period, it could actually translate to more revenue for our cities and for the county and less commuting. Thank you very much.
Question.
Thank you, Mayor Sierra.
Chair.
Thank you for being here and waiting.
Ms.
Supervisor
Sierra?
Carbajal.
I think that might have some viability, but I know the mayors meet every month or so.
Yes.
Is this something all the mayors have bought off on? And
Well, I believe Mayor Jim Richardson from Solvang and Mayor John Lynn from Lompoc are here. We've had a North County Mayor's Luncheon, and we think an economic developer is a good help and aid for our county. It would incorporate all of the county of Santa Barbara, north and south. But there's so much land up north that has not been developed yet. And whereas Lompoc and Solvang, I believe Santa Maria also have their own economic developers or advisors, our town isn't big enough to bring that on board. And if we partnered with the county, if you even took a small portion from our budget to help pay for an economic developer that looked at all the cities, north and south, and the unincorporated areas, I think that we could find jobs.
The only reason I ask is that, oftentimes, sometimes we go to the cities for potential partnerships, and I think if the cities come to us after they coalesce, and maybe all agree to a funding mechanism, it makes it easier for us to step up to the plate, because then we could look at a countywide strategy. So I encourage the mayors, when you meet, to kind of step up and maybe sign up, and everybody says we could be part of it, and I think it allows us to kind of look at how we could be part of it.
We have discussed it. I don't know about the South County mayors yet, but yes, North County is very much in favor of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Mayor Sarah.
Judith Dale to be followed by John Lynn.
Hi, Judith Dale. I'm here representing the Parks Commission. I'm the chair, and after your comments to the Parks presentation, I'm going to totally change my presentation. It sounds like most of you are on board and exactly thinking the way I am. Parks have been cut 66% in the last 4 years, and yet it is a jewel of the Santa Barbara County where people come and promotes tourism. I could go on, but it sounds like you're with me on that. The number one reason people like to come to a place is cleanliness. The number two is safety. And if we start cutting more than the 66% that we've already cut, we're really going to start eroding what we have here in the county. I mean, we've done a great job with the consolidation. I think the 66% maybe isn't quite as draconian as it might sound, because Herman Parker and his staff is doing a great job. But when I look at community services only getting 7% of the budget and another department getting 50%, I'm going, wait a minute, what are we thinking? And so I implore you on behalf of the grass, the trees, the sand, the surf, all of these things that don't stand up for themselves, to please keep our parks intact, because they are the jewel of Santa Barbara County. And the consolidation was great, but enough is enough as far as cuts. I also sit on the advisory board for the libraries, and once again, I was delighted to hear your comments. I mean, the word library comes from liberty, and if we start cutting libraries, we're cutting parks, and libraries are where people that are maybe in the lower socioeconomic groups, what else do they have? And so we really need to keep these services intact, and then don't even get me started on the health and the shelters and all of that. But please, 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 7% of the county budget going to community services, that's just way too low. But to get back to parks, protect our jewel that we have, and 66% cut in 4 years. I can't think of any other department that's had that kind of a cut. And as I say, it's not quite as draconian as it might sound, but enough is enough with cuts. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Lynn to be followed by Jim Richardson.
So if I don't have any bad news, is that good? Well, the bad news is you guys have had to fight a declining budget for a couple of years. I'm glad you had to take $72 million out and I didn't. I commend you for it. Looking out in the future, I think you see other future problems with that. You've got issues with your pension fund that are liable to impact you when the actuarials report comes in. And frankly, I think the answer is you can't cut yourself out of a cost spiral. So you all know I'm an old sales guy, so I'm gonna put on the sales shoes now, and I'm gonna talk about a solution now before 2013-14 gets here and that rather draconian thing happens to us. There's 5 of you up there, but there's really 2.5s. One half of the county has a certain set of priorities. another half of the county has a different set of priorities. And it's time to understand that, and instead of thinking of one size fits all for a whole county, to start thinking about giving the people in the south what they want and giving the people in the north half what they want. For many, many years, the south half has carried the freight in terms of our county budget with a disproportionate share of the revenue. Well, it's time for the north to get on board and carry some more freight, because now we need to do it. And so what I would suggest to you is that there are a lot of opportunities in the north to expand. In the city of Lompoc, in a year and a half, we've begun $80 million worth of construction projects, or will begin. That could be done in other parts of the county, but we have roadblocks. The way we have been successful in the city of Lompoc is an effort on behalf of our council that made economic development number one, and then took steps to make that happen. And the most important step that we took was an economic development director who was also the assistant city administrator. Because if you just hire someone to do economic development and they have no power, save your money. We did that in the city of Lompoc for a number of years, and we got absolutely nothing done. Many years ago, we had exactly the same thing that we have now, and we got a lot done. And I think you probably want that person to focus on some portion of the county where they want that. If you went to Santa Maria today, you'd find out that there's a lot of excitement about drilling for oil, and there's a lot less concern there about fracturing than there is in other parts of the county. So maybe you need to draw that line, and if you don't want it on one side and the other side wants it, there's a tremendous opportunity for revenue for the county. The problem that the planning department has could be resolved by having projects move through the process, and they would also provide you with the revenue you need in the future. Now, in 8 seconds, I can't tell you how we did it in Lompoc, but if you want, I'd be happy to write a draft or come back and tell you in much greater length. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary Lynn. Thank you for being here.
Jim Richardson, to be followed by Judith Monty in Santa Maria.
Hello, Supervisors. Chairman Farr. I'm speaking as the mayor of Solvang today. In this season of political campaigns, two words are being used by almost every politician, from the dog catcher to the President of the United States. The two words are jobs, 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 and economy, economy, economy. Maybe you've used those words in your own campaigns. I think I have. Today I'm suggesting a way you can take action to make those words come alive. Join with Solvang, Buellton, Lompoc, and other communities in the valley, in the county, to form an Office of Economic Development. An Office of Economic Development influence and accommodate business investments by investing in supporting infrastructure, adopting supportive taxing and regulatory policies, by providing high levels of customer service and being business friendly, by creating smart, sustainable incentives, by understanding the trends in local economy, and by communicating with the business community. If the county is successful, it encourages job creations, generates the revenue to support and sustain local services, and improves the community's quality of life. Tonight, the Solvang City Council is considering adopting a strategic plan for economic development. The resolution states in part, and I'd like you to think county when I say city. Whereas the City Council recognizes the importance of a healthy economy to the financial stability of the community and the quality of life in the citizens of Solvang. Whereas the City Council understands the current economy raises concerns regarding the level of prosperity and the possible for business and residents of Solvang. And whereas the City Council recognizes that the private sector is the primary driver of the economy, creating revenue and jobs for the community, and that the role of the City Council, the commissions and committees and staff is to create conditions which foster private sector investment in the community. And whereas the City Council recognizes the city's ability to provide quality public services is dependent upon a healthy economy. Supervisors, I know that in the times of tight budgets, it's difficult to find the revenues to undertake a new office. But in these economic times, when many businesses are leaving the state, we must do what we can to reverse that trend. I encourage you to create a vehicle that can help our county and the state return to the robust economic powerhouse it once was. And in 25 seconds, I'd like to say, you've received my email on the funding of the visitors and conference bureaus. remember, we support that. We need you to support the Visitors and Conference Bureau. We work together to back and forth with our Visitors and Conference Bureau and yours. So please support that as well as form this office. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you, Mayor Richardson.
Judith Monte in Santa Maria, to be followed by Leroy Scolari.
And now we're going to 2 minutes per speaker.
Is Judith Monte in Santa Maria there?
I was told we could speak from the table. Can you hear me now from the podium?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm here from the Food Bank of Santa Barbara County to address the issue of the cuts to the Human Service Commission. Last year, you provided $30,000 in funds to us. Countywide, we served 102,000 unduplicated individuals last year with some measure of food provided to them. We were able to empower 290 programs, countywide nonprofit programs, including our own, providing a safety net to the most needy of our community. And I'd like to challenge you on the fact that you can't reduce the services at a county level, and while we're having a reduction of state services as well, and then reduce the funding for the safety net that's in place. I could talk to the human side of that, but since this is a budget hearing, I'll talk to the budget, the financial side of it, and ask you how wise it is to get a short-term solution to a budget and at the same time create great increase on a long term. If we have people going hungry, we are going to have, it's proven, increase in crime. We'll have increased costs to our sheriff's department, more overcrowding in an already overcrowding jail. We'll have increased costs to our public health department because our folks they're ill because they're not as healthy. We're going to have increased needs in the school district because there's not the brain development, the social development, et cetera, is impacted when people are going hungry. So I would ask you, not only on behalf of the food bank, but on behalf of those 290 programs throughout the county, that you opt to keep that safety net in place and do what is right by the members of the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Leroy Scolari, to be followed by Lieutenant Matthew Jensen.
I'm Leroy Scolari, Lompoc rancher. I've been affiliated with county agricultural planning things since the 80s, starting with the Ag Element Committee, which I chaired. I'm presently a board member of the Cachuma Resource Conservation District, a board member of the State of California Association of Resource Conservation Districts, and a member of the Ag Advisory Committee. I'm here to ask your support for increasing the funding of the Ag Commissioner's Office, because this office supervises an industry which is one of the main revenue-producing industries in the county. It is extremely important that we have biologists in adequate numbers to provide timely inspections for all of our export commodities. It would be a major catastrophe for this county to be blacklisted by some of the states and countries that we export to. So there has been a reduction of 8.4 FTEs since the 06-07 budget, at the same time that our exports have been increasing. So I would really urge you to look at that. We are faced with increasing threats with invasive species, pests, as well as weeds. it's extremely important that those be kept out of our area because they can be totally devastating to an economy, which we've seen happen in various parts of the state and even in this county for some crops.
Thank you, Mr. Scolari.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Lieutenant Matthew Jensen, and then we're going to return to Santa Barbara for Robin Barber.
Again, the Salvation Army just loves serving not just the city of Santa Maria, but the whole county of Santa Barbara. Speaking and representing the Salvation Army of Santa Maria City, I think now more than ever we're seeing an increased number of men, women, and children who are coming to us for help. The proposed budget cuts would impact us by 25% cut from what we use to serve the many people who come to us for help. Last week alone, we saw over 1,000 families come to us for help through our social services and our food line, coming to us for assistance ranging from emergency food to rental and utility assistance, in addition to over 700 individuals enjoying a seat in our food lunch alone. We realize that times are difficult, and we appreciate the need for frugal choices and all the decisions you guys are making. So again, I think it was said earlier, we commend you for your hard decisions, and while you make these tough fiscal decisions, just know that you are in our prayers. But we just want to make the point that the drastic cut would, the drastic cut could see an end to many necessary services the Salvation Army provides in the Santa Maria City, and that's the very last thing we want to do. If anything, we need to increase services to the many people who come to us and need our help. So again, thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, and thank you for the work that the Salvation Army does.
Robin Barber to be followed by Sylvia Bernard.
Thank you again. I'm with SEIU Local 620. It's my understanding that you did receive a letter from our Executive Director, Bruce Corsaw, who actually has addressed some of the issues specific to community services. And we appreciate that your consideration is given to that. I believe he was very thoughtful in the information that he brought forward and also very detailed. Rather than spend time around what the impacts would be around the elimination of some of these positions that we're discussing around the plumber and the welder, I do have some statements that I can leave for your review around those impacts that are specific to the people who actually do that job. I think it would be very helpful for you to have that. Contrary to popular belief, we are as much concerned about spending and budget balances as anyone. I mean, it's to our advantage as well as taxpayers who actually work here and serve the public as it is for anyone else that the budget be viable and that we have a balanced budget. So when we come before you, we have an understanding of, the complexity of what you have to do and and how hard it is for you to make those choices. But we would like to ask that you really look at and ensure that the cost savings that are brought to you are really cost savings, and that expenditures that are associated with contracting out or the loss of those positions are looked at fully. Because in the long run, once you've contracted out a public service job, a lot of times it ends up costing you more in the long run. After the initial year, once you've done it, you've gotten rid of the equipment, and you find out, oh my goodness, the public service workers were doing a better job at this and it was less money, then it's too late. So we're asking that you give a strong consideration to that, not just in community services, but in all the areas where the cuts are to actual families who actually pay taxes right here in this county. So we appreciate all that you do and hope that you're really in-depth about those cuts. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sylvia Bernard to be followed by Michael Foley.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. I'm Sylvia Bernard. I'm the Executive Director of Good Samaritan Shelter. I am here to speak up against the Community Services Department recommendations of cutting shelter beds from 345,000 to 300,000 countywide. That's a 13% cut. In addition, I am also here to speak up against the Human Services Commission funding complete elimination. Good Samaritan Shelter has already received more than $600,000 in cuts over the last 4 years from the County of Santa Barbara. We have continued to keep our programs open and our beds available. In fact, we've even expanded services in Lompoc to help the county be able to provide services in that community. We can no longer take cuts and actually keep our doors open and keep all of our beds available at this point. All of our programs, including the shelter programs, are full with waiting lists. With ongoing cuts to county departments such as alcohol, drug, mental health services, the jails, the sheriff's department, the probation department, where do you think those people show up? They show up at the shelter. Oftentimes when they get early release, when they aren't on probation anymore, they are on probation, or there's no beds available or spaces available through alcohol, drug, mental health services, they'll refer them to the shelters, and Good Samaritan has been there. But we can't continue to be there if we don't have the funding to be able to keep our doors open. Our staff, much like the county staff, is at bare bones, but this economy has completely impacted Good Samaritan and what we do. If these cuts do go through, Good Samaritan will have to look at actually shutting beds down and putting people that are homeless, that are within our shelter system, out on the streets. And in North County, that does mean families. We can't continue to take the cuts and serve more people with less resources, and that's been the toughest for us for all. So I really recommend that you look at any ability to be able to save that funding so that we don't have to be able to shut shelter beds in North County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Foley, to be followed by Laura Kath.
Chair Farr, members of the board. I'm here representing the Casa Esperanza Homeless Center today, and I just wanted to echo a little bit what Sylvia said. We've reached a point where if we don't have donations, if we don't have grants, and if we don't have contracts, we've reached the point where that equals beds. If we don't have the funding, we cannot keep beds open. And we're at that point at Casa Esperanza, and I know that we're at that point across the county as well. You recently approved a redesign of homeless services. We go from moving deck chairs to reallocating lifeboats. Every cut is a lifeboat in this area. Please don't throw away our oars before we can get in the water and get moving. Please keep the system whole so that we can create the type of system that will help everyone streamline the services that we have. I also wanted to speak in regards to the Human Services Commission. Supervisor Wolf, you mentioned LHCDC. I strongly believe that one of the reasons why there hasn't been a whole lot more LHCDCs was because of Nancy Madsen as a staffer and because of the Human Services Commission. That is your line to knowing what's going on in the service sector. The other thing is the amount of money that you put into the Human Services Commission comes back in numerous grants from other areas, and it's incredibly important. That $1 million, if it's not funded, throws away millions of dollars more. And the need for staffing in HCD, I really want you to consider that. I was in the HCD office last week, and I have never seen a harder working group of people who are overwhelmed by the amount of work that they have. And I had to deliver something at 5:30 on Thursday night, and I thought I was going to slide it under the door. But when I went into Sharon Frederickson's office, everybody was still working at 5:30. They can't handle another cut to those grants that are so important to us continuing to keep people with their lifelines. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Foley.
Laura Kath, to be followed by Diane Erdley.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, supervisors. It's a pleasure to be here, sort of. I'm the president of Mariah Marketing. I'm a resident of Santa Barbara County since 1985. I want to speak on three things. Number one, to show my concern about the recommendation to eliminate funding for the Conference and Visitors Bureaus and the Film Commission. Again, the county has expressed an interest that economic development is number one here in the county, amongst other things, of course, but it's a very key consideration. The Conference and Visitors Bureau and the Film Commission are economic drivers in this county. I think you've heard today, and I don't have to repeat, that this is an industry that brings revenue in two streams. There is no other industry in this county that brings you two streams of revenue, both in bed tax revenue and also in sales tax revenue. No other industry does this. And by cutting or eliminating funding to the agencies that actively promote this industry, We're in a situation in our economy, both here regionally, nationally, internationally. We work in a market that is insanely competitive. Do not cut off our fingernails. Do not cut off the hand that feeds you. We need to scratch and really promote those industries that bring you money. We do that in tourism. It is extraordinarily important that you maintain. Of course, I'm aggressive. I want to not only maintain but have an increase. But I would ask you in these tough, tough times that if you would please do not cut the funding to the Santa Barbara Conference and Visitors Bureau, the other Conference and Visitors Bureaus, the 12 agencies, as well as the Film Commission that are all economic drivers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Diane Erdley to be followed by Mary Harris.
Good afternoon, Madam Farr and supervisors. I am a volunteer at Casa Esperanza and a retired UCSB professor, and I'm speaking to you as a member of the community regarding budget cuts to the shelter services. During my time as a volunteer at Casa Esperanza, I have seen the many benefits that it provides to the homeless community. Resources provided by the county and other agencies allow people to resume fruitful and productive lives despite serious mental illness, alcohol and drug dependence, and other unfortunate circumstances of this dire economy. Once I started volunteering at Casa Esperanza, I was pleasantly surprised to see how many of the people from Casa move on to stable housing. Some of the vital services provided at Casa are jeopardized by further Santa Barbara County budget cuts to shelter services. I urge you to continue the funds you give to Casa Esperanza. As the daughter, sister, and mother of individuals with serious mental illness and addictions, I have seen the devastation that these afflictions cause to the person, her or himself, as well as their families. Both my father and brother died prematurely from their mental illnesses, causing the rest of our family to deal with the devastation of their suicides. The money you provide is so important to the well-being of the people who receive the services here in Santa Barbara County, their families, and the community as a whole. Every day that I am at Casa Esperanza, I ask myself how I can most effectively spend my time and allocate my donations of money and other commodities. I encourage all of you to deliver your resources in the most effective and efficient manner to ensure delivery of the highest quality services to the largest number of people. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mary Harris to be followed by Emily Allen.
Hello, my name is Mary Harris. I'm the Executive Director of the San Ynez Valley Hotel Association, and I'm also speaking for other tourism promotion organizations in the San Ynez Valley. You've received a letter from us on behalf of our 7-member board encouraging the continuing support of county funding for tourism promotion organizations, and I thank you for your notes of support. With the Tourism Business Improvement District funds that we have assisting maximizing our market reach and our ongoing cooperation with the Santa Barbara CVB and Film Commission, we are poised to truly place Santa Barbara County in the forefront of California tourism destinations. We know we're already there, but we want to make sure everyone else knows that. We urge you to continue or enhance funding for our tourism partners in the San Ynez Valley and extremely important and hardworking Santa Barbara County Film Commission. In conclusion, we want to keep the visitors aware of and filling all those wonderful cabins and yurts in Cachuma and Jalama, as well as our 32 hotels in the San Ynez Valley. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Emily Allen to be followed by Ann Gogol.
Chair Farr, supervisors, my name is Emily Allen, and I do legal outreach with the Homeless Education and Legal Project of Legal Aid. And I'm here today to ask that you restore funding to the Human Services Commission and the contracts to the homeless service providers. These are two important pieces in preventing and reducing homelessness in Santa Barbara County. A June 7th Los Angeles Times article entitled "Anti-Homeless Projects Save LA County Money" study finds documented that providing permanent housing and supportive services to the most vulnerable people who are homeless can save money. The 2012 U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness report calls for creative, comprehensive, and seamless systems of care. Santa Barbara County is now on the verge of developing a system of care that can effectively prevent and end homelessness. Of course, just throwing money at homeless services will not have the desired impact, but cutting services without thoughtful consideration of the negative impacts will have disastrous and costly impacts. We know that a reduction in the Shelter Services General Fund to emergency shelter providers will result in a reduction in bed nights and supportive services provided to people experiencing homelessness. Previous budgets have already cut these programs and services to a point where they can be cut no further. It has already been stated that some of these cuts are down to the bone. For the people who would be impacted, I thank you for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allen.
Ann Gogel to be followed by Kathy Staple.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman and Supervisors. My name is Ann Gogel, and I am a Vice President of the Consumer Advocacy Coalition. I am also a sociologist and counselor. We are a grassroots organization led by mental health consumers. I am here today to ask you to save the Human Services Commission and to restore funding to the homeless services grants. These programs serve those who are most in need and most vulnerable. Other people have spoken about, today we're trying to reduce the economic cost to the county of various programs. And we need to be penny wise and not pound foolish. I mean, we've been penny wise and pound foolish, and we don't want to do that. Because if we increase homelessness, we have a greater drain on the mental health services. We have a greater drain on public safety services. It also negatively affects tourism. Who wants to walk down State Street and be asked to give money? No one likes that, and that is not good for tourism. So we need to look at all of this in the web of the larger economic context and all the multifactorial things that fit into our economic equations. Thank you very much for your consideration today.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Kathy Staples to be followed by Petra Lowen.
Thank you. And I'm Kathy Staples, Madam Chair, board members. I'm the director of the Santa Barbara County Energy and Economic Development Coalition, and Mayor Sierra had gave me a minute and a half of her time. Boy, do we need money. And gosh, do we need income sources, and we need revenue streams, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. I want to talk to you about creating a director for economic development position that would build countywide coalition to develop and implement a strategy for job growth and economic vitality. As I will show you, millions of dollars are available to us as we're looking at developing a countywide, cities included, from a federal government opportunity to bring us grant and grant opportunities into this county. Of course, this proposal I put before you today and a week ago is just the beginning place for bringing all the major players across the county into looking at this major problem of economic development. For a long time, strategy was that cities would steal businesses from one another, and they hoped that that would work, and it wasn't very successful, as you know. We lost not only revenue streams, but we had limited results. So we can do better. Economies are regional. Workers live in different communities, they commute. We're talking about they go where the job is, their workforce skills are associated with research or technology, and shipping, going out of area. How do we equate that so that common denominator makes it successful for our county to grow, develop jobs, keep people from being homeless, keep people from having to be housed in centers, and have jobs and keep their families together. The social issue is impacted every way by the economic drivers that keep this county together and what we are going to do for economic income and jobs. So we're going to be looking at the unemployment issues for this county and what we can do to attract larger businesses and opportunities into our county, and how we can manage that, because no one city, college or university has the resources to strategically move that forward. Now we have a priority.
Thank you, Ms. Staples. I need you to wrap up.
Then with the materials that I handed junior packet, Madam Chair, there's a reasonable opportunity through the Department of Commerce, Labor, Energy, National Science Foundation to bring us in hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue stream. So therefore, I'm thanking you for the opportunity to talk. And if you have any questions, I'm available to answer.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being here.
Petra Lowen, to be followed by Kathy Javenga Dykes.
Madam Chair and Board of Supervisors, my name is Petra Lowen. I work at the Independent Living Resource Center as the community living advocate, and I would urge you to restore the funding to the Human Services Commission. For one thing, this is a real network of agencies. We work closely together. Our agency regularly refers our clients to Catholic Charities, the Food Bank, Unity Shop, many others, and we get referrals from them. So it's a network that really works closely together and works. The services that we provide are some of the most basic human needs, shelter and food. And with the economic downturn, I would say the request for assistance for finding housing has pretty much doubled in the last compared to 2 years ago. I just looked at our figures for this year, this fiscal year. Our agency was able to assist individuals in finding housing, almost 50 individuals, 47 or 48, and that's just for the South County. I didn't have the numbers for the North County. So I really urge you to restore the funding for these really vital programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Lowen.
Kathy Javenga Dykes, be followed by Jeff Alexander.
Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Kathy Javenga Dykes. I'm the CEO of the Santa Barbara Conference and Visitors Bureau and Film Commission, and I'm here to speak about staff recommendations to eliminate all funding for tourism promotion and film commission. I'm going to speak specifically about tourism promotion, and then Jeff Alexander will talk about the benefits of film production. As noted earlier, tourism is an economic driver for our county, and in fact, the money that is generated from these revenues are used to pay for some of the essential services for the county. Many you've heard from earlier, such as safety and human services as well. It's a $1.4 billion industry for our area and employs 16,000 employees. And tourism marketing works. In fact, I can speak for Santa Barbara CVB specifically, but we carefully measure the results of our programs, and through the formation of a tourism and business improvement district, we've been able to demonstrate that we've been able to book an additional close to 50,000 room nights, and it's incremental growth for this year alone, too. And Mr. Parker's summary of results did not include another success, which was the formation of this Tourism Business Improvement District, which is an assessment that is paid by our hotels for the support of tourism promotion, but it was done under the concept of a private-public partnership to leverage dollars that are being used for and spent by the county as well, too. While it's undeniable that for the county, tourism is a significant revenue generator, it is also true that for the tourism industry, your funding is an important symbol of support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff Alexander, be followed by Paul Van Leer.
I think I can say good evening, Chairman Farr and Supervisors. I'm Jeff Alexander, Santa Barbara County Film Commissioner. I'm here to speak in opposition to the proposed cuts to the Film Commission's funding. But first, I'd like to thank you all for your very hard work up here on behalf of the county. We realize this is a very complex and difficult process, and we appreciate your thoughtful approach. You have a lot of moving parts here, a diverse group of county departments and outside agencies which all require funding to deliver services. These departments typically have one trait in common. They spend far more than they generate in revenue. Through our work bringing media production business to our area, the Film Commission has done the opposite. Production has brought more in revenue than it has spent in county funding. Over the past 3 years, while others have struggled, we have succeeded in our mission to bring increased business and increased revenue to Santa Barbara County. During the period of 2008 to 2011, filming days in Santa Barbara County have increased from 404 to 543 days. This is a 34% increase in production. What we're doing is working. Santa Barbara County is outperforming geographic competitors such as San Diego, Los Angeles, Inland Empire, San Francisco, etc. We are way ahead of them. This means that the pace of our recovery is not simply drafting off the overall economic recovery, but is in fact outperforming it. Last year's direct spend of $12.8 million translates to over $100,000 in TOT from an estimated 9,500 room nights here in the county, which were spent during off-season and midweek when we most need those rooms to be filled. Beyond the money spent on hotel rooms, restaurants, and services, Santa Barbara County-based production generates massive, free, and beneficial PR for our region with paid ad equivalency of millions of dollars over the past 3 years. The county rightfully recognizes the importance of economic development. In fact, the #1 priority listed in your 2012 legislative platform is economic development. This is what we do. Your investment is paying off by continuing to return clear revenue and PR benefits to the county. Cutting this funding may well cost you much more in the long run than it saves in the short term. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander.
Paul Van Leer, to be followed by Christina McGinnis.
Good evening, Madam Chair, fellow supervisors. My name is Paul Van Leer. I'm here representing the Santa Barbara County Farm Bureau. I mirror the concerns of Mr. Scolari. I understand the dilemma you are facing, but I'm sure you're aware that the ag industry is the #1 economic producer in our county. The Ag Commissioner plays a critical role in the first line of defense for invasive pests. The Ag Commissioner is already receiving a 30% cut from the state for shipping inspections as well as any eradication efforts that might be necessary. The burden will be placed solely on the Ag Commissioner to eradicate at some point, as well as do phyto inspections to keep our perishable goods and crops moving out of the county. We already have lost 8 biologist positions since 2006. One is slated for 2013. The cooperative extension and the farm advisors do play a vital role in our ag industry. We as an industry will do our part to share the costs, but please remember, as all it would take is one invasive pest to cripple one sector of our industry. Please give our Ag Commissioner the ability to protect the county from an economic crisis. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Van Leer. Thank you for being here.
Christina McGinnis.
Just a moment. Supervisor Gray?
Paul, I just got an email from Ms. Fisher, and there are 13 biologists, not 20. Is that right, Kathy? And so it appears like what you're asking for is that we really don't need to cut another biologist because
that's my understanding. We've already cut 8, my understanding, since 2006, and this one is critical. I think that's what we're asking for. Any help you can do to keep that biologist and whatever else Ms. Fisher is necessary to do the job she needs to do.
Thanks, Paul.
Sure.
Thank you.
Christina McGinnis, to be followed by Michael Chiakos.
Good evening, Madam Chair and board members. My name is Christina McGinnis. I'm here today representing the Open Program and the Environmental Defense Center. And I just want to say that it's really clear from Ms. Waller's presentation this morning that you have many difficult choices before you, and hearing testimony as well today. I just want to urge you to please continue funding for the Gaviota planning effort. I think that's on your slate already, but we've been working very hard and we're very close, so please continue that. And I'd also like to just bring an item to your consideration, which is the Climate Action Strategy Phase 2, and because the Climate Action Strategy, the Phase 1 of it has been completed, we're hoping that Phase 2 can also be seen to fruition so that there's an actual implementation strategy for that, and there are a lot of benefits from that in terms of applicants being able to have a programmatic document to tier off of when they're looking at projects. And then finally, I'd like to say that your continued support of the Ag Commissioner's Office is extremely important because ag is our #1 economic sector, and we need to keep the ag industry healthy. And ag education and outreach should be continued absolutely in the county and elevated, in my opinion. And as Paul mentioned, the identification and eradication of invasive pests and threats from invasive pests are very critical at this time. And without funding for these types of programs, there could be public safety, environmental, and other risks. And finally, I want to thank you very much sincerely from the bottom of my heart for your acknowledgement of Naomi Schwartz this morning. It was special. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McGinnis.
Michael Chiakos, to be followed by Rubail Srivastava.
Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Michael Chiakos, representing the Community Environmental Council. And we're here to support the long-range planning and development of particular importance. We hope that the cuts don't affect the development of the Climate Action Plan. This plan develops coordinated policies to protect our environment while often saving money and stimulating the local economy. One prime example is the recently completed 1 megawatt solar project at the Cayo Real campus. According to the county press release, this project will save our county $12 million, and construction supported 22 Santa Barbara County vendors. Projects like these decrease ongoing costs, which really allow our different departments to focus on their core activities. These projects help departments during good times and during bad. The Climate Action Plan will help identify and move forward other worthwhile projects in a coordinated and strategic way, and it deserves our continued support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chiakos.
Rubail Srivastava, to be followed by Kim Olson.
Thank you for your time today. I also want to thank all the nonprofits that are here. I think they've said it best, so I can only reemphasize what they've already said. I'm a commissioner for the 1st District as of November 2011, and having reviewed the housing and community development budget, it's very evident that the $1.2 million for human services funds is pertinent to build and sustain a very resilient community in these times. We are the government mechanism that's already in place to participate in enhancing the community services and strategically also aligning our funds alongside other donors and funders. We are built of a network of professionals from North and South County, as you very well know, but most importantly, we are members and we are also involved with the nonprofit sector that service the community as the needs increase during this economic downturn. In line with the increase in services, the department has also called for decrease in alcohol, drug, and mental services, shelter providers, fire, field, and maintenance. It's inevitable that there's going to be repercussions. To mitigate that, let us be your focal point. Let us remain your resource for the network of nonprofits. And these nonprofits, as you know, provide not only preventive and intervention services, but they also ensure a resilient community and a safety net for the services for the most vulnerable that really need these, of course. Maintain the Human Services Fund permanently and remain that government partner in strengthening our community as a whole. So thank you again for your time and your support.
Thank you.
Kim Olson, to be followed by our final speaker, Christina Pizzare.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Supervisors. I'm Kim Olson. I'm the Executive Director of Alpha Resource Center of Santa Barbara. And let me just say, we do not receive funding from the County of Santa Barbara. But I'm here on behalf of 2,200 individuals with developmental disabilities and their families that we do provide support throughout the county, as far north as Cuyama and Guadalupe, Santa Maria, Vandenberg, Lompoc, as far south as Carpinteria. Those services we provide in terms of family support, resource, information, and referral are privately funded. What we don't provide is basic services. What we don't provide are those elements that are being proposed to be eliminated through the human services, the elimination of the human services funding. So I'm here on behalf of our constituents that really live just, that really require a safety net that's provided through those funding. And I also want to thank the nonprofit community that provides those basic services to our constituency. And so I urge you to restore that proposed funding cut. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Christina Pizzare.
Good evening now. We've all been here for a long time, so Madam Chair, thank you, and supervisors of the board. My name is Christina Pizarro, and I'm also a 1st District Commissioner, and I'm glad to be here. I wanted to speak in support of the Human Services funding. I really do feel, just speaking about a purely economic perspective, I think that the $1.2 million, which equals $9.6 million in services that are output into the community, is a very wise investment. I think that we need to support that type of funding. The human services funding of $1.2 million, I think, is just a snippet of the entire budget. I think that it would not be wise to cut it, so therefore I don't support that as a private resident and also as a community volunteer and also as a human services commissioner. I'm urging you, the board, to consider supporting and reinstating the human services funding indefinitely back into the county budget so that we can continue to serve the community indefinitely. Thank you for your time, and thank you for all the work that you do. I know that you folks have funded us in the past, and I'm hoping that we don't have to come back each and every year. So thank you. Good evening.
Thank you, and thank you for waiting to speak. All right, and that is our last public speaker. So this concludes this part of our budget presentation. CEO Waller, did you have any concluding comments for today?
Chair, I just want to express my personal appreciation for your board's guidance and direction, and from those folks who attended to help us understand what the impacts of these cuts would have on their particular services. Again, I know that you are facing some really very difficult decisions, and hopefully the information that we have provided today and the follow-up that we'll be doing with the board information forms will be helpful to you as you hear the remaining presentations on Wednesday and begin your deliberations. And as always, I encourage the board, if they have additional questions as they're considering what they've heard today and preparing for what they will hear on Wednesday, to please let me know, and we'll get that information to you as quickly as possible, and we will share that on our website with all of our public.
Thank you. And again, our thanks to all of the county staff and departments that presented today and all the members of the public that came to speak. It's so important for us to hear from you. And so with that, we will be adjourned until Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock, when we will start again and have the rest of our departmental presentations and begin deliberations. And Supervisor Carbajal, did you have a comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. CEO Waller, we had talked about the fountain ceremony and whether we should adjourn to that event so that all the board members who want to go can attend, and we won't be in violation of the Brown Act. I don't know if you want to clarify that. Maybe we don't need it. I don't know.
Council, did you want to speak to that?
My understanding is that it's a ceremonial event, not a county-sponsored event, and it would not be a Brown Act issue as long as there's no discussion of county business.
Okay, but we certainly invite everybody who can come and would like to come to the ceremony at the courthouse at 11 tomorrow morning in front of the fountain. Thank you. So.